Hi, I'm Mark.
And I'm Bill.
Everyone's heard of Lean and Green at Wellmark, but I'm not sure everyone totally understands what lean actually means. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Exactly, Mark. That's why today I'm going to demonstrate how to break this board with my bare hands.
What?
We're talking about lean. Focus on eliminating waste, what you can control. Angle of the board, speed of your fist. Eye of the tiger. Step back, Mark. It's showtime. Ooh. Oh!
Lean. It's a little bit different than that.
Knuckles. Ice pack. Ice pack.
For us to provide the kind of service that our customers are going to demand, and for us to control costs like we want to and provide a really good value for our customers, it's absolutely essential that we're a lean company. Lean seems pretty simple at the surface level. It's really just all about removing waste from our processes. The problem comes in with what is waste and how do you remove it. Doing work in a process that isn't lean is a lot like taking a boat trip down a wild river. There's a lot of twists and turns. There's a lot of obstacles that you have to overcome. There's rocks jutting out of the water. There's rapids that you have to go through. It's the same sort of thing with our business processes. Some of them are winding, treacherous rivers that we've gotten used to navigating. The rocks, those are poorly designed forms, resources that are difficult to access, or data that's inaccurate. The rapids are complex procedures or non-standard work practices. And those twists and turns, complicated, unnecessary steps in the process that just don't add any value to our business or to our customers. We need each person to be pulling rocks out of their river, each person looking for ways to smooth out the river, and maybe even looking for ways to bypass some of the parts of the river that just aren't much fun to travel on. One of the ways that you can recognize waste is anything that slows you down from really doing something that's of value to the customer is probably waste. If you're waiting for things, if you're correcting things, if you're inspecting your work or someone else's work, that's a pretty good sign that there's waste in your process. Here at Wellmark, we talk about the 7+1 wastes. And those are really just the ways that we categorize the waste so that we can identify and remove them from our process. Those include waiting, defects, transportation, motion, overprocessing and overproduction, and inventory. And the +1 waste is untapped employee creativity. No matter what kind of problems we run into, we want to get our work done. But the problem with that is sometimes that manifests itself in us getting really good at compensating for an inefficient process or for mistakes. And we get so good at it, it actually becomes a part of our process so that we don't even recognize it as a problem anymore. A good way to help identify waste is through the use of process maps. If we've mapped out our processes, that means we've taken the time to truly understand what steps occur as we actually do our work. And a lot of times when you do that, you can actually see the waste in the process once it's down on paper that you may not actually be able to see when you're simply doing your work in a day's time. The key thing is as soon as you see waste, as soon as you've identified it as such, is to take some kind of action. Now that action may be something within your control that you can try to figure out, why does this happen and how can I keep it from happening again? If that's not within the scope of your control, another thing that you can do is work with those around you. Maybe someone next to you has an idea of how to take on a problem that you've identified. And of course, if that doesn't work, you should always go talk to your leader.
Mark, I'm ready to brave the rapids, ready to hit the high seas and make way for smooth sailing. You do understand that the river's just a metaphor for eliminating waste in our processes, right?
Yeah, of course. I totally get it. It's a metaphor. If I didn't understand that, you think I'd get dressed up in this outfit? Like a boat captain? If I didn't know that it was a metaphor.
Well, good. I wasn't, trying to imply that you look ridiculous or anything.
Ridiculous? Did Captain Stubing look ridiculous? Rhetorical question new. Captain Tennille, they look ridiculous? Don't think so. Sold millions of albums. Muskrat Love? Good disc.
Okay, well, all hands on deck then.
Everything that we do here at Wellmark, every activity that we undertake, everything that we do in our work, every hour that we spend here takes money. Anything that any employee can do to make their process better is important, and it all counts. We tend to minimize the importance of individual activities when it comes to the big goals of the company. Let's say that this cup represents 1 hour of work time. If I can find a way to take out just 1 hour of wasted time out of my processes every week, that's just 12 minutes a day. Over the course of a year, that would turn into 52 hours. Not bad. But now think of what would happen if every one of Wellmark's almost 2,000 employees did that. All of a sudden, I've now saved over 100,000 hours. And that's at least $2 million worth of labor.
Annually, we review all of our processes. We said if you could wave a magic wand and change anything about your process, what would you change and why? It's mainly just a way for them to look at what they're doing and see what they'd like to do better or differently.
Before we had the scanners, we were using the paper copies of everything, and so people would have to send us the information through interoffice mail. And not only was that time consuming for it to go through the mail, but we also had a lot of handoffs between the employees, the leader, and getting it to accounts payable. An employee can electronically send it to their leader for approval and forward it to accounts payable, and all of that can happen within moments. And so the transaction actually has eliminated a lot of time.
Everything is at our fingertips on our computer. When we have an audit, we used to need to go over and pull a large volume of records, and it would take hours, and then we would have to copy them and refile them. Now we just sit at our computer and pull them up, save them to PDF, and send them securely on to the customer.
We used to have 28 spreadsheets that monthly we would track all of our fixed assets and try to reconcile our fixed asset module to our general ledger module, and then document all the variances. I've been doing that for about over 20 years. It took about 32 hours a month, and that equals about 384 hours a year, and generated 2,472 pieces of paper on an annual basis. So what we did is we took all the 28 spreadsheets and we folded them into one workbook. In the old process, you'd be keying the same data numerous times. Leads to a lot of errors, double checking, triple checking. By using the concept of linkage, you input, you do your validation in your input tab, you know that everything reconciled, and then it just links and automatically feeds into those 28 spreadsheets. That process, now that we've improved it, only takes 12 hours a month. So we're talking roughly about 144 hours.
We're more timely. I think the other benefit we've seen as a team is we've been able to stay at the current staff level. We haven't had to increase our staff size to accommodate any new vendor payments that we get in because of the new building. We're now processing electronic claim payments for the organization. We have about 40% of our providers that are paid that way. We didn't have to staff up to accommodate that. We're able to remain efficient and process with the small staff that we have.
We looked at all the waste and all the motion transportation that we had in the process to move from 3 floors to 1 floor and to reduce. We had 80 steps in the process and we reduced them to 29 steps. What that has done is that we have decreased the cycle time by 1 day. We've reduced at least 200 square feet. We've had very positive response. It's reduced the amount of emails and phone calls. We're able to resolve problems much quicker. We've become a collaborative team, and we've decreased our cycle time to our customer.
Who benefits from this? The customer. And does it cost more to do it right the first time? No, it costs a lot less to do it right the first time.
It's a great step forward, as John has said, and thank you very much for your energy and for coming to the forefront and making all of this happen.
If you look at what we need to accomplish over these next 2.5 to 3 years, it's a formidable goal that we have in front of us. It's also something that we think that we can accomplish. We know that there's a lot of inefficiency in our processes, and we know that we can do better.
And I think there's a lot of very unique ways, if you will, of how we can improve our process. It's really thinking outside the box and thinking maybe in different ways that we've not thought before. We really took processes that were pretty standard and really used, I would say, more of a visionary approach to how we were going to go about that. And I think there's still